Hafize, welcome to What We're Watching, formerly known as the Real Talk Podcast. I am your host, Ken Nicholas, and I'm joined by my broadcast partner, Jason Solis. And in here, what we're watching, we're going to talk about what we are looking forward to every month in movies, whether it be streaming or in the theaters. Jason, how you doing?
No, good, man. I love it when the titles of podcasts are like so unbelievably vague that you can't tell like what the podcast is about. Now, what we're watching, like I have no idea what we're talking
about. What is a better acronym, WWW or W3? What do you think? Let us know, guys. You let us know what the show acronym should be. W3, because it is what we're watching, Jason. I don't know if you've caught on to that yet, but
yeah, very
anyway.
Nice.
It is
the logo,
July.
The logo is going to be really, really cool.
It is July, and there are a ton of new movies out. We're excited to get into it, and we're just going to tell you about a couple of things you can watch, where you can watch them, and why you should watch them. The 3 W's as well. So,
okay, have you watched Black Widow? First, I have not.
I have not watched Black Widow. I have Disney Plus, and I have not gone to the theater to watch it. You can watch it at Tango Theaters, though, right?
Yeah. And actually, it is significant because Black Widow opening weekend, they made $215 million. About a third of that was streams because, of course, with the Disney Plus, you need the premium plan, which means you got to pay $30 for it. But highest grossing movie since the pandemic started, obviously, and everything like that. But $215 million in worldwide revenue on opening weekend. That is not bad. Everybody was really worried about, when a really major blockbuster comes out, post pandemic, what the effect on streaming versus theatrical releases is going to be, but this one came out strong.
I've heard a lot of people say as well on social media that Black Widow is actually a very, very good movie. The pacing is very strong, and it's just a solid addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I saw on Twitter, basically the villain Taskmaster is getting really, really dragged. People were not happy with the way Taskmaster. I mean, yeah, overall, they said the movie is good, but people were kind of a little disappointed in the way the villain was presented.
Really? Interesting.
I mean, it's always like that, though. Otherwise, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but there's a lot of movies, especially since we got backed up with the pandemic. Of course, Top Gun 2, Maverick is supposed to come out. I believe that's been pushed back starting in September, we are going to see a historically monumental time for theatrical releases, and there's streaming components. So you got, like I just said, Top Gun 2 is coming out, the new 007 movie, the James Bond movie is coming out, Dune is going to hit, so nerds worldwide are going to be super stoked about that.
Yep. And also I guess we could say that with the pandemic there was kind of a slowdown also on streaming services in terms of movies that people would want to catch. But July has a ton of good movies I'm really excited to talk about. Obviously, Army of the Dead, which came out early on July 1st, I believe, starring Dave Bautista. It's the Zack Snyder film where, a group of mercenaries try to infiltrate a zombie-ridden Las Vegas to get some money. It's a pretty good film. I liked it. But something that has just recently come out on Netflix, which I wasn't sure at first what I would think about it, but I'm actually a fan of it now, is the Fear Street trilogy. And one part of the trilogy comes out every Friday on Netflix. So they have the Fear Street 1996 or 94, Fear Street 76, and then this coming week will be Fear Street 1666. And they are all short stories or an anthology that takes place in the town of Shadyside, Ohio. It's weird because they're all written by R.L. Stine, from Jason's second favorite horror author for the Goosebumps books. But it's weird because the characters are young, right? They're teenagers or even younger, and it's got like that kiddie type of youth horror feel, but it is extremely graphic and very.
You said the kills are pretty gnarly.
It is not this is not something that I would have a kid watch for sure. Like, it is crazy though, because the age of everybody in the film is young. It's like a mix of Scream and what is that show with the Stranger Things? It's like a mix of Scream and Stranger Things.
And last time
really
correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but the last time we actually saw like a horror movie that actually, where the antagonist didn't necessarily prey on, like the dumb horny, drug abusing, drunk teenagers, but even people younger than that was sleepaway camp. And that's all the way back to like 1983, where a lot of the victims were younger people.
Sure. Yeah. No, but I mean, and this is it's just really different. Like, this is just, it's shocking. I would say it's pretty shocking. I think if you're a fan of those Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark type of stories, you'll like this. You'll like this, but then you also have to be mentally prepared, because it is violent. Like, we're talking about kids like getting murdered, like it's pretty heavy in terms of like the raw shock factor of the violence. But that is a good one. There's also
I take that back. It wasn't necessarily sleepaway camp where the victims were young. Also, Nightmare on Elm Street, of course.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, these are not teen. Like, I'm talking young. Like, we're talking 11-year-olds, not 17-year-olds, right? I mean, although there are a fair amount of older teens in the films. Another film that's coming out, actually comes out in 2 days, is A Classic Horror Story. That's the name of the film. And basically, it's the premise is there are people on a plane and it gets hijacked. The plane gets hijacked and a person gets killed, quote unquote. And it turns out that person is a vampire. So this person has to reveal that she's a vampire. Very interesting horror premise. I'm looking. I'm sorry. That is Blood Red Sky. And that's July 23rd.
That's really, I've not heard about this, but that is really, really interesting, because it's combining two known fears, like a fear of vampires and claustrophobia.
Yeah, I think it's very, very interesting. Especially, I like horror movies where the evil or the bad, the antagonists of the film are kind of the ones being hunted by the monster per se, where the monster becomes a protagonist, really. Mm-hmm. So I do like that. That is Blood Red Sky. It comes out on July 23rd. The other film I was talking about is a German film, or Italian film. It's called A Classic Horror Story. And this is about some kids who are driving a car. They get into an accident. They get caught in a cabin in the woods. And it's, as the title says, it is a classic horror story. This has got really good reviews. I'm excited to see that. That should be coming out tomorrow.
If you know your film history, the Italian style of horror is probably second to none, and if it is, it's probably second to only like a Korean cinema, because like going all the way back to like Dario Argento or like filmmakers like that. I mean, Italian horror is like, it's very, very artsy. It's also incredibly graphic. I mean, Italian filmmakers have a thing to do. I mean, they tend to focus like a lot on the eyes of the victim. If you've ever noticed that, Ken, in Italian like horror movies and everything like that, they always like fixate on the eyes, like what the victim's going through. Their gaze, like that eternal stare when they meet the end. It's very unsettling. Yeah.
I agree. There's also actually a film that I've watched. It comes out on July 17th. If you have HBO. So there are a couple of films on HBO that if you have HBO Max that we should talk about. But the first one, before we talk about the true banger, before we get to the big
I know where we're going with this.
The Empty Man, which stars Thomas Badge Dale. It is a very, very good, underrated horror flick. It was supposed to come out like 3 or 4 years ago, but it had a delayed release. And it's recently built a huge cult following because it is actually incredibly good. A very long movie. Empty Man, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's just like intellectual horror movie. Definitely check it out on HBO. But enough about horror. Let's just get the elephant out of the room done right now.
July 16th.
This Friday at 5 p.m. on HBO Max.
28 years in the making. Can you believe that?
Space Jam.
What is the actual title though?
The GOAT.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay, St. Nicholas, you guys.
LeBron James.
Yeah. It does not look bad. I mean, they've okay, we already know from the trailers, Klay Thompson is in there, Damian Lillard is in there, Anthony Davis is in there, and I don't believe it's going to be like I'm pretty sure it's not a shot-for-shot remake of the original Space Jam with Michael Jordan, where he and his friends at the time, it was like, Sean Bradley, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, where they go back and they play the Monstars. I believe in this one, from what I've seen, is if LeBron does not win the game, he gets stuck in Toonland forever, and all of his cartoon friends cease to exist. I mean, it's pretty brutal when you think about it, but it looks
Yeah. I'm not really sure the premise of the whole story. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be that it's not meant to be that logical, right?
Yeah.
But it's Space Jam, and everyone loves Space Jam. I'm glad to see LeBron taking the iconic role from the second GOAT, Michael Jordan, and fulfilling, then just grabbing the crown, holding the crown of greatest of all time. Finally, LeBron gets to shine with Space Jam. I'm gonna go get me some McDonald's toys, Space Jam toys from the Happy Meal.
And this is gonna be LeBron's film debut, right? I mean, he's had cameos.
No. He's had a few cameos in a few other things, but yeah.
Like Michael Jordan, I mean, Michael hosted SNL, and then he did, but Space Jam was actually his acting debut.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. No, he's been in some movies, but I don't know. Yeah, let's say it's his debut. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we need to get caught up on I mean, yeah, a lot of really cool things coming out, but as far as what came out during the last year and a half that we weren't able to do this podcast and everything, you and I, like, we make no bones about this. We're both, each of us, proud former Blockbuster employees. Did you watch the last Blockbuster?
I did not.
I thought it was great. It was really, really funny. And if you work there, there's a lot of like inside jokes and just stuff that, like, I don't care where you work. The last Blockbuster right now is like somewhere in Oregon. If you were here on Guam, if you're in New York City, regardless of where you were, it's like, it was a monumentally fun job. And it's a great, great watch. And, even it says, if you had the blue collared shirt, if you had the laminated membership card and everything like that, it's really going to take you back. So it is a fun watch.
Great. I definitely got to check that out. I'm excited about seeing that. There are two other movies that I would suggest. One movie I have watched has come out. It's The Tomorrow War. That's on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
Starring Chris Pratt. That is a good movie. That is a spectacular sci-fi movie. I liken it to Independence Day and Edge of Tomorrow on that level of grandeur. Like, it is a solid sci-fi action movie. I was very blown away. I was very impressed. Have you watched it, Jason?
I've not seen. You've been talking it up all week to me.
If you have Amazon Prime, guys, check out The Tomorrow War. It's out now. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. It's very good. One of the best, I guess, streaming production house movies out there in the market today.
I've got a recommendation. It's also on Amazon Prime, so we'll stick with Amazon Prime, at least for the moment. It's a documentary. If you're not going to watch it for obvious reasons, I won't hold it against you, but it's called Street Gang: How We Got to Sesame Street. And it is a story of the funding, about how Sesame Street came to be and how they wanted it to be this big, educational tool, because TV was really taking off in the 60s, and they wanted to say, kids are basically memorizing commercials. Can we actually use this wonderful new medium to educate children? And they take it, with the introduction of the Muppets and these musical skits and with animation and everything. And it's turned into, this juggernaut of teaching kids, arithmetic, phonics, civics, everything, how Sesame Street over the years has dealt with, the real life death of cast members, how they've dealt with issues like certain characters, being autistic. They've talked about certain characters having alternative lifestyles, I believe in Sesame Street's, and they talk about the globalization of Sesame Street, how they've got different versions in different parts of the world, and how, they internationalize it and everything. But it's a really, really good documentary. And I say that because, I grew up on Sesame Street. It's, I watched it every single day, and it's really, really well done.
Very interesting. Yeah, definitely. There's tons of good documentaries out there. A lot of the Netflix documentaries currently out there are very, very exciting. A couple crime ones that I've watched that I binge watched and I like. But to end this episode, so you guys can go on to your day, definitely check out some of these movies we've mentioned before: Fear Street, classic horror story, the Sesame Street documentary, Blood Red Sky, obviously Space Jam. But one film that I do want to watch, and I want to watch in theaters, is the M. Night Shyamalan film coming out. It's called Old, and basically it's a family spends a holiday on a beach, but then they find out that their age is rapidly reducing while they spend their time on the beach. Pretty interesting premise.
It's kind of like the portrait of Dorian Gray, but like backwards and like on a beach. I mean, it looks like typical M. Night Shyamalan. It looks like really well done, kind of weird, and kind of like you may have to watch it a couple times to like really get what he's trying to say.
Yep,
but it looks beautiful.
It seems very cool.
Yeah. Okay, one thing that I am really looking forward to watching. I have not been to the theater since the pandemic, but one thing that I do want to watch, and again, I would like totally go with you and your beautiful wife to this, when Candyman drops. And I think I've watched the trailers like a couple times. I believe it's Tony Todd that is going to reprise his role as Candyman. Wow. He's coming back.
He doesn't age really when you think about it. Like he's just, he looks the same. So
yeah, there's some Marvel movies coming out. Venom is kind of like hit and miss, I would say, but Venom's supposed to come out. How do you feel about the should we call Suicide Squad a reboot, remake? That's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't know what I feel about it. I actually don't really like the Suicide Squad original one. So I mean, a reboot is nice, even though it has the same cast. So it's interesting. It's not what I'm looking forward to. But
real quick question for you, because I can't even say that. What movie that we've seen in the last few months, and you mentioned Army of Darkness. The one with Batista.
I don't know. Yeah, Army of the Dead.
Yeah, Army of the Dead. Thank you. Which movie between Army of the Dead or Mortal Kombat really sucked you in for like the first 15-20 minutes, and then the movie kind of like fell apart from there?
Mortal Kombat definitely is.
Yeah, I was way worse so in with Mortal Kombat.
Army of the Dead is actually pretty good and is very, very deep. It has a ton of Easter eggs and tons of different things you can pull from the movie, so it is very enjoyable. But it just kind of fell apart. It could have had a few of the scenes been developed more, it would have been an amazing movie, but unfortunately it wasn't. But Mortal Kombat just was horrible. And that said, that actually, if you do have HBO Max, I know I'm saying you should watch Space Jam, but there's also one movie on HBO Max that, it's worth the price. Get your hands on Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet. It's on HBO Max. Watch it while you can.
And Christopher Nolan, as we know, he is a filmmaker, was really, really pushing for, and he goes, I don't want this movie to be enjoyed, at least initially, like streaming. He goes, I shot it for the big, for a theatrical experience. That's the way I want it to be presented, and just really, really bad timing for him. But and it did not.
It did go in theaters.
It did not. Yeah, it did not do well when it came out only in theaters and everything. But now it's on streaming, so hopefully, like, it gets second life, because it's a brilliant film.
It is brilliant. But on that note, Jason, we'll close this episode. Let us know in the comments or on Facebook or DM us on Instagram what shows or movies you watched or are looking forward to watching in July. And stay tuned for our next episode when we uncover all that we can find in August.
All right, so Space Jam, definitely. We're gonna go check that out. All right, guys.